Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, Peter.
Jeez, you wake me up when you do that.
Here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Episode number 176.
Wow.
I have a major announcement to make.
You slept last night?
Major announcement. No, I sleep every night. Well, mostly. The question is do I sleep 4 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours?
Yeah.
Here's my announcement.
Yes, sir.
It is mid-November 2019.
It is.
Okay. My birthday is 1 month away.
Yeah.
1 month away.
Is it the 19th?
December 19th.
It is. Okay.
Okay. And I'm one of those guys that hides for my birthday. I don't like the attention. Right? I just don't.
I'm sorry, that's funny. Otherwise, all your job is getting attention.
Yeah, but when it comes to focusing on me personally, I just don't like it. I don't mind helping people. I don't mind being out there on the radio waves.
So
and
you're all business is what it is.
All business, yeah. So I am posing a birthday game.
Oh.
Yes. I'm posing a birthday game. And we will talk about it the next 4 episodes. And here is the birthday game. I would like from my listeners, if they so care to do something for me for my birthday, because otherwise I'll get all these strange gifts and weird things. Okay? Mm-hmm. I would like 2 things. I would like between now, episode 176, and episode 180, which is 4 episodes.
Wow.
56 brand new reviews on iTunes.
One for every year, eh, Bill?
One for every year, because I will be turning 56. So I want 56 iTunes reviews. I don't want them on all these other platforms where I can't see them.
Yeah.
I would like 56 iTunes reviews. And if you want to know how to do that, just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and just go to the podcast link on the top. And there's a link on that page to show you how to do that.
No, this is going to be easy, folks, because that's only 14 a week, and that's just 2 per day. 2 per day. Yep. Are we asking too much for Bill? Come on, 2 a day.
The second thing, which is a little bit of a stretch, is I would like to have 56 support tickets that are some sort of a testimonial. I would like it to say, I bought a house.
I bought a house, exactly.
By listening to your podcast. And that's all it has to say is, I listened to your podcast and I bought a house. Yeah. If it's true.
Yeah.
If not, I did this or I did that. I want 56. I'm requesting. I may not get anything. People might just shut their podcast off right now and say the hell with him.
Yeah, but this is a good game because, you can do things like I bought a house, or I put in an offer this week, or I looked at a house, or I did marketing. Any of the steps are valid up to the actual buy of the house.
I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the 56 requests, but if I hit 56, I'm tempted to tell Emma to upload it on a web page so everybody could see it. So if we hit 56, if we don't hit 56, then I'm going to say, thank you for your, testimonial, and that's as far as it goes. Okay, but that's my birthday game. So 56 iTunes reviews and 56, I helped, or we helped, you and I helped. Hell, I like Pete's jokes.
Hey, we could have like a site where there's a big cake and everybody's name is on a candle.
There you go.
And so if it's a joke, one of my jokes, it's a different color.
Right. That's my request. And the reason why I'm doing this is because last year my daughters sideswiped me on my birthday. 55 years old. Yeah. They sideswiped me.
I forgot what they did.
They pulled a stunt on me because sometimes they'll do things for me and it draws tears because I'm just like that, right? I'm not a wimp or anything like that, but it's just sometimes I get emotional.
You're a big grumpy teddy bear.
Sometimes. So at the meetup, they actually showed me a video of all my coaching clients, or a vast majority of my coaching clients, telling me how much I helped them.
Jeez, absolutely.
So I
didn't
decided
forget
this
that.
year I'm not going to get sideswiped. I'm just going to provoke it myself.
You better
and I'm
do
gonna
something before they make it
because
really...
otherwise it just happens and I can't stop it. So
And it's overwhelming.
all right, let's get down to
I
business.
remember that was awesome. We played it
it's
at the meetup.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
In fact, if you want to see that video, you can send a support ticket in for that too. FlippingHousesForRookies.com. Top right hand side, just hit contact us and you'll get to me.
That's not like just sitting somewhere on your site?
No.
That'd be nice.
It should be.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, it is sitting on the site, Emma. Oh, it's on the coaching page. Okay. There you go. So if you go to FlippingHousesForRookies.com, on the top it says courses, and then click on the advanced coaching. You can see it there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. Let's get down to business. I have done it again, Peter. You're going to like today's podcast. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Bill, I like them all.
Really juicy secrets using real estate contracts.
Now,
Dun,
see,
dun,
if it wasn't juicy, I wouldn't like it. But since you're making them juicy, now I'm going to like them because I like them juicy. You know that.
In today's podcast, we're going to cover never talked about ways of using old-fashioned real estate contracts to make millions without risk. This is no hype, folks. This is for real. Large down payments and legal advice. So read that to you again. In today's podcast, we are going to cover never talked about ways of using old-fashioned real estate contracts to make millions without risk, large down payments, and legal advice. Whatever you are buying, imagine it only takes $100 for a deposit and your buyer gets the loan to pay your seller so you don't have to go through the grueling process of buying with the bank loans. And here's another little thought. No long drawn-out closings with attorneys, bankers, realtors, and all that others mucking it up.
Bill, you know what I call those?
What?
Hurdles.
Yeah. No drawn-out closings with attorneys, bankers, realtors, and all the others mucking up your deals and using a masking gun to rob your closing with thousands in fees. I'm not mixing words here because they use a masking gun. They're not
a masking gun.
a mask on your face.
A mask and a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Got it.
They're not polite. They don't care. Here are my fees. I took it out of your check. Here's the rest of the money. They're not polite, right? It's a mask and a gun.
It's like we're standing at the end of the line just waiting for, may I have some more, please?
Yes, exactly.
No, there's no more for you. This is it. Take it. Go home.
Once you listen to this unique but factual episode, you will feel doing deals any other way is pure treacherous and reckless. You need to pay top dollar to get deals, which is why I'm going to show you today how to make tons of dough using the correct documents. By the end of this show, with us, you will see that the money is in the contracts, not in real estate. And real estate is just a beacon of light that finds these fortunes. Tall order, huh?
So you said $100, eh?
Yep.
Can I say something?
Oh.
We had the meetup last night, and there was a couple that were there, and I was trying to get him through the night, help him, talk to him at the end of the night. He spent $16,000 on one program, $2,000 on another weekend training thing, $1,000 on another one, and another one or two. He kind of ran out of money. He didn't buy anything. All that money, and he was like sad. I mean, he wasn't crying, but he was beat.
Hope he's listening to this podcast.
Well, he was, yeah.
Because he'll get more from this podcast than he will from that training.
Well, yeah, I told him go to the website, look at the free stuff, and look this data up. Because, I can't take a risk. I know, do this. I don't have much money. I know, do this. You have to work hard, but you'll get something.
Yep.
Jesus. I hate to see that.
Here we go.
Go ahead. I just want to throw that in because that's true.
It's thrown in officially now.
Yep.
You ready?
It's in the ring.
Contracts. Real estate contracts.
Scary.
Really scary words for most people.
Yeah.
You can do everything else right. Say all the correct things. make perfect offers, satisfy the seller's deepest grueling problems, then draft the wrong contract that some legal beagle created who knew nothing about the deal or created real estate, and the deal blows up in your face.
You're talking about some kind of like stock contract, like a format?
Just in general.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. If the attorney doesn't understand creative real estate, he can't write the language correctly.
Yep.
Because he's gonna legal it up.
Yep.
Happy real estate investors who are swimming in deals and profits that they can handle. What the hell did I write here? I don't know. I should have proofread this, huh?
Oh.
Happy real estate investors who are swimming in deals and profits handle this successfully because they took the time to find out and understand and use the correct documents for specific deals. No different than a carpenter using a jackhammer to nail 2x4s together. Having the correct document is a true success for any real estate investor. And it gets even better than this. Most of these documents are very simple. That's why the lawyers have trouble with them. Because they're simple. Written in plain English so everyone can understand them and feel good about signing them. Without giving their firstborn child.
No, the understandable part, I'm sure, is one of the situations because there can be some fairly fancy jargon in there and complicated sentences, and if you don't know what it means, you're going to get nervous.
That's right. Okay, so now's the time to grab a pencil and paper and pay attention because I'm going to go over these very old and unique documents so you can make a fortune buying houses without bank qualifying, any real risk, or have to get a Yale education while reading each document. Now, I'm not going to go over the documents themselves because obviously I can't do that, but I'm going to go over the concepts and I'm going to go over what you should do to do these deals. So let's start off with risk. Okay, because that seems to be the big thing. I'm going to tell you right now, in the next minute, how you can avoid all risk in real estate deals. Okay? So you never lose anything. Is that a bold promise? I'm going to tell you how you can lose all risk. Have absolutely no risk at all.
Well, I've been around. Good? Oh, absolutely. Well, I've been around, so I know it's real. Yeah.
So you ready?
Go for it.
Good. Here we go. Don't put any money in the deal.
It's like,
don't put any money in the deal. If you put money in the deal, then you're going to risk it. If you put no money in the deal, then you're not going to risk it.
How about this one? Don't buy the property.
That too.
Don't buy it.
Just control it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So don't put any money in the deal. Or like you said, don't buy it. Just control it.
Yeah.
You know, if you have the right documents and the right paperwork, you can do that. You actually have more power controlling property than owning it. Right? You have more ability to do things.
Well, at this stage of the game, when you're in this little pool here, I always think, or people wonder about it, I say to them, I told somebody last night, what risk does a realtor have when he's representing a house?
Right.
Like, and they just look dumbfounded, like, well, what happens if he doesn't sell it? They go home?
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. It's not like, wow, man, am I stuck now? It doesn't happen that way.
They don't even buy you a cup of coffee when they tell you, when they let you off the hook or they push you over the edge.
Yeah.
They just send you a text. Sometimes they don't even respond. The contract just expires, they fade away, and there you go.
It's like that missing boyfriend.
A creative real estate investor means you use the least amount of money to buy the most amount of real estate so you can leverage as many properties as possible and not max out his potential power, buying power. Can you give that to you again?
Yeah, that's big.
A creative real estate investor means you use the least amount of money to buy the most amount of real estate so you can leverage as many properties as possible and not max out his potential buying power.
Yep.
And the side effect of doing that is often you structure deals that have infinite profits.
Mm.
I mean, if you put $100 into a deal and make $10,000, what is that number?
Well, you know what I do? I put the 100 in, I make the 10,000, I pay me back the 100. Now I only got 99990. Now that's infinite.
Right.
That's really infinite, isn't it?
Right.
You know, you pay yourself back.
Infinite means that it just goes on and on. It's not calculatable.
Yeah, I mean, times zero, it's like zero or infinite.
Right.
That's great. That's great cash return.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, if you go look up, like on Google, because I did it, and type in creative real estate investor,
yeah,
they make it sound like it's like a secondary, they call it non-traditional.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not one for much for tradition anyway, but they make it look like it's secondary.
So let's talk about that for a second. So traditional as of when?
That's a point.
Because when I did my history lesson, I think the word realtor came on board or in our English language. I think it was around 1918 or 1913, something like that.
Realtor.
The word realtor.
Yeah.
But here's the amazing thing. Realtor comes from a Spanish word real, meaning royal.
Yeah.
And tor, meaning bull.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Like Toreador, bull guy.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Real, royal, bull.
So let's yeah. So it's a real play on words.
Ouch.
Okay, it's real bull.
What an image.
Okay, so what happened is the first 50 years up until like 1949, realtors were considered charlatans. And a charlatan is nothing but somebody that pretends like they know something and they have some talent and they don't. Mm-hmm. That's a charlatan. So they're scammers.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what happened. And there's books written on this. I'll tell you a book to read.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a great book to read. It's called Winning Through Intimidation with Robert Ringer. Now, I don't think you can buy a new one because I think he's dead. But you can buy it on Amazon used. Mm-hmm. It's called Winning Through Intimidation by Robert Ringer. And it's actually set, I think, in the 50s. And the book is all about him being a commercial realtor and getting stiffed on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of commissions. Because what would happen is that he'd put the deal together. They get to the closing table, there would be a problem, and he was the first one they booted to keep the deal put together.
Yeah. That's all the work the guy does. They cut him out of the commission.
Yeah, because back then they didn't have good contracts.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the other side of it. I mean, if you got a guy like that knows what he's doing, you should pay him. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, most these days don't. Most licensed realtors don't. The charlatans early on were they would do things like they get a deposit, and of course the deal would drag on, and they didn't have any commissions, so they would use the deposit to like live off of.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the deal would fall apart, and they didn't have the money. So things like that would happen, right? Well, it was so bad that somebody had to write a code of ethics for them to follow because it was a bad industry. I mean, if you said you were a realtor, it was like, ew.
Really? That's so weird. But, I've learned historically you do not need a code of anything unless you have a problem to write a code for.
Right.
So the fact that they have one is evidence.
So they wrote a code of ethics, okay, and that code of ethics was administered by the National Realtors Association, which was formed in 1949.
Right.
Okay, so that National Association of Realtors, okay, which they've changed the name a couple times, but that association was what made the realtors what they are now. So they enforced the ethics. Mm-hmm. Mostly, it was the deposit money.
Yeah.
And how they wrote the purchase and sales contract. Mm-hmm. Okay, because that's all they're taught in their schools.
Did they have some laws that would protect them when they did a good job, so they wouldn't get pinched out of a deal too?
Yeah, so they started to pass legislation so that once you signed a contract with them, then you had to pay them their commission.
Yeah,
right, and that's where we are today. In fact, it's so bad that I stopped using one of my realtors, which will remain nameless, because in the contract. In the listing contract, it says things like, even if I find my own buyer, or I sign an option agreement or a lease agreement, they get full commission. Not like a 1 month's rent. They get full 6% commission.
So they don't do anything. You do the work, and they still get paid.
Yeah. So, and I stopped using that realtor because of that, because the language is too harsh. It was like all them, me, nothing.
Okay. It makes sense that if a realtor has a contract, other realtors can't come and represent a person. Fine, they have exclusive. But if you do the work, come on.
Exactly. All right. So, anyways, enough of that. So I'm going to start off with the master of all masters, the form of all forms, the deal of all deals.
Can only be one thing.
Tell me.
The option form.
Exactly. So if you simplify what we talk about for 175 podcasts and everything that we're truly made of, which, by the way, I want to take, I'm on a bragging point today. I want to brag about us. I mean, where else can you go and listen to 176 episodes of creative real estate talk? Now, I know Bigger Pockets is out there. They're pretty big. But they're not on one topic. Every week or every time they do a podcast, they interview somebody else and they talk about a lot of various different things. Right. Which is really good for somebody that's just poking around, not knowing what to do and trying to figure things out.
It's like a clearinghouse for tons of different aspects. But if you want to concentrate on something,
we have not only stayed on one topic for 107, that means there's at least 176 hours worth of training. I would say it's well over 200 hours worth of training. Right? We have always talked about creative real estate. And there's 107, that's almost 4 years of podcast every week talking about creative real estate. The best part is that mostly me, I have funded the entire thing. There are no advertisers. And I get at least 2 or 3 emails a week because of our downloads, because there's so many downloads that want to advertise. And I just tell them no. Because to me, it's kind of like President Trump using Twitter. Yeah. That's what it's like. That's what my podcast is like. That's how I feel like my podcast is. He does that because the media is so corrupt that he's afraid that if he communicates to them, that they'll alter his communication. So he uses Twitter, like it or not, to get his message direct from his mind or whatever he's thinking right to the end user. Yeah. And I feel like that's the way it is with us. I want to get our message and our philosophies and our experience right to the end user so that they can actually do stuff. Yeah, and that's what we do. That's why there's no advertising. That's why we fund it. That's why we do what we do, right? Because we don't need to do this. We don't get paid for it. In fact, it costs us money to do it, right? Minimally, it costs me at least 4 to 5 hours a week, and for me, that's how my time is. That's a lot, and I'm not. That's why when I ask for reviews, and I ask for testimonials. At least I'm getting something, because I feel like we help a lot of people. Okay, and I'm not doing it to get something back. It's just that I know people are going to do stuff for me because we help so much that's just what happens. My birthday comes and all kinds of things come. Remember last year? I think it was last year. I got a box from FedEx. Yeah, and it was Gino's Pizza from Gino's Chicago, because I love going to that place. That's right. It took me over almost 2 weeks to figure out who sent it to me. It was $100 worth of pizza.
I remember when that happened. I don't remember who sent it to you. Found out?
Yeah.
Wow.
And by accident. I asked everybody, because there's only certain people that know that I like Geno's because I've been there.
We ate there.
Yeah.
And I thought they might have had, tell us when your birthday is, you put it at the bottom and they sent you one, but that wasn't that. Not $100 worth.
It was 100 plus. Jeez. And I found out it was one of the guys I used to work with.
That's crazy.
Anyways, so that kind of stuff, that's why I'm saying. I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I know that stuff is coming.
Hey, Bill, was the pizza still hot?
No, it's frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, they flash freeze it.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's deep dish pizza. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the option. The real estate option is specifically designed. It's a specific contract that's designed to go between the buyer and the seller, obviously. The seller offers the buyer rights to sell the property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This happens every day in the stock market, right? You can buy the rights to a stock and then go off and find a buyer, hopefully for more money than what you promised to pay, and make money. That happens in the stock market probably thousands or tens of thousands of times a day. Correct?
I suppose. It just sounds weird to me.
Why?
I don't know. I don't do stock.
Well,
I figure if you want to buy it, call the guy and buy it.
Well, if you don't need the money. See, the problem with stocks is if you put $5,000 in the stock market, right, and you make back, a 10% yield, in other words, you make back $500 over the course of a year or a month or whatever, right, you have to keep that $5,000 in there live.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Well, picture this. You put $5,000 down on a $100,000 piece of property. First thing that happens is you went from having a $5,000 asset to a $100,000 asset.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it right, you get cash flow, probably $500 a month if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing is when you want your $5,000 back, you just refinance it, get the money back, and you still own the real estate. Yep. And it's still producing $500 a month, and it's still worth $100,000 plus.
It's $500 a month, not $500 a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's just an interesting thing. But the point is that they do these, I don't understand, calls and puts and all that, and the reason why they do that is because some people invest in the stock market that don't have the cash, so they're leveraging the rights to sell.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So in real estate, we have the same exact thing. It's called an option, which gives you the right to sell the property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what happens is we agree in advance on a fixed price of the property, right? And how long we have these rights for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like if I were to buy a property from you or have an option agreement from you, we would say I want to pay $100,000 for this house, and I'll give you the money. I'll come to the table within 30 days or 90 days.
Yep.
Or 60 months or 120 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're willing to, however long you let me to go. So what I would do is I need to buy those rights. I need to pay for them.
Sure, because it's a value, right? Having an option to purchase something is a value.
Right.
So you pay for it.
Yeah, but more importantly, you have to have what they call legal tender to make the contract, to make the rights legitimate, to make it legal.
Sure.
So yes, you are right. You have to buy. You are buying something. You're buying the rights to sell this piece of property, right?
Sure.
So we put up $100 for these rights,
mm-hmm.
right? You can use $10. You can use $1. Doesn't matter, right? Now we go off and find our buyer that's willing to pay more than what we promised the seller, and get him to pay before we promised, or pay, get him to pay on or before what we promised the seller.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, a part might not make sense if people haven't been listening. Why would somebody pay more than the seller gave to the guy in the middle?
I don't understand what you just said.
You said you have an option to purchase the property at a certain amount, and you sell it to somebody else for more. So it might sound funny. The first time somebody hears, I was like, well, why would the other guy pay more than the seller sold to you for. The seller
Maybe they're not as good of a negotiator as I am.
That's right. I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
More to the point is I make a living out of finding these deals.
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole career. We have a whole staff here. Well, it's the three of us, but it's we work every week at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
More importantly, I know how to draft up the documents.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't have a jackhammer trying to nail 2x4s.
No.
Right? I had the right documents. Okay.
Right. We do find people that have a situation where we do things for them to help with the property, so we get a little better rate because we're helping them with some situations.
Correct.
And a lot of people need to pay more to get their mortgage because they might have some trouble.
Correct. Now, here's the really, really, really cool thing.
Yes.
If we don't find a buyer to pay us, right? Or we can't complete the deal, then all we lose is the $100 we paid for the rights. We don't have to buy the property. We just lose $100. We're not legally obligated to pay what we promised the seller for the property.
Yeah, because it's an option.
Just the fee for the rights, which is the option consideration deposit. And normally we pay that up front.
Yeah.
So it's not even like we owe the guy the money.
No, you pay it up front so you have the right at that point to move forward.
Yep.
Bill, you know what I call options? You can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
That's my short answer. You can buy it, but you don't. Like the realtor, they don't have to sell it. They try, but sorry, they walk away. And we at least buy them a cup of coffee, don't we?
Yeah. Now, and this is really important.
Yeah.
This is really important. Because we have, because we are buying and selling the rights to buy and sell this property, right? We don't need to have a real estate license to do this. Because we own, it's actually an equity share.
Yeah.
Or we had the rights to be like we're being part owner.
Yeah.
Because we have the rights and we have a special document from the owner saying, I'm giving him the right to sell my property.
It's like, what's the minimum you have to put in a house to be part of it? No one has a minimum.
Right. So you become, quote unquote, like partners in the deal.
Yeah.
So the seller puts up the house and you go find a buyer and you're going to share in equity. Right. So you actually have an equity share.
Yeah.
So, you might get $5,000, you might get $2,500, you might get $50,000, whatever. But the cool thing is because this document is so carefully drafted, the option agreement, that you don't need a real estate license. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So if I pay Pete $100 for an option consideration for the rights to sell a property, I made a sweet deal with Pete.
Yep.
Right? Now, I go out and find my seller who is hot and bothered to rent to own.
Buyer?
I don't know what I said. So now if I go out and find my buyer.
Get the buyer.
Yeah. Who is hot and bothered to rent while he lives in the property, while he cleans up his colorful past, right? And gets prepared for a mortgage, he can actually live in the property, get use of the property, right? When we're doing this on a rent to own or a lease option.
Yeah.
Right? The point is that the only reason why that works is because of this option agreement.
Right, because he then gets the option himself to purchase it, right?
Right.
What do you sell? What do you sell it to him or something?
Yeah. So I sell him the rights, right?
Yeah.
So here's what happens. I sell my rights I bought from Pete for $100. I bought from you for $100.
Yep.
I sell it to him for $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever I can get. Right?
Yeah.
So I paid $100 for the rights to sell this property,
Mm-hmm.
and I sold it for $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever the number is.
Right.
Right. Now, get what just happened. Okay. I paid you $100. They paid me. Whatever. Say $5,000
Mm-hmm.
for a 1-page agreement for one document.
Mm.
It's actually 2 documents.
Mm-hmm.
And even better than that, when the buyer gets his mortgage, right,
Mm-hmm.
the seller will credit the whatever he gave me, the $5,000 to $10,000, $20,000 for the option consideration deposit,
Mm-hmm.
towards the price of the house.
Yeah, that's important because he's not just giving you $5,000 or $10,000 just to be nice and here's your money. It counts toward the price of the house, so it comes off the top of whatever it costs. So
Right.
he's
So
getting something for
Let's
it.
do some math so this makes more sense.
Yeah, we do an example.
So I buy from you,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't buy. I actually get the rights from you to sell the house for $100,000, and you're willing to wait 2 years for that money.
Yep.
I write the option agreement, and I give you $100 to make it legal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I go find Emma, who's willing to pay $110. So why would Emma pay $110 is the first question I'm going to get.
Sure.
Well, the reason why Emma is willing to pay $110 is because Emma has a colorful past with her credit, or maybe she just started a business and needs 2 years worth of tax returns, or I don't know, something like that. She needs time to get qualified for a mortgage.
Yeah, and that happens.
That happens a lot because 81% of the people looking to buy a house don't qualify for a mortgage.
Yeah.
So we're going to allow them to live in the place. They're going to do all the maintenance, all the repairs. They're buying the place. They're not renting. They're buying the place. So
They have a
they're
different mentality
fully
toward it.
responsible.
Yeah.
And she's going to pay $110. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because where else is she going to go?
Well,
I mean, think of it this way. If I have a Mac, my Mac computer, if I sold it for $1,000 cash today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you gave me $1,000 in cash, that means you paid $1,000.
Yep.
But if I sold you my computer for $1,000 and you swiped your credit card and you paid for it over the next 24 months, you're paying more than $1,000. Well, it's exactly what Emma's doing with this house. She's paying more than because she doesn't have the cash right now and she's got to pay on time. Mm-hmm. And that's just how our society works. Yeah. It's not bad. I'm not robbing her. It's not.
Well, she moved from some apartment that she didn't like to an actual house.
Right.
So they're happy about that. Right. They could rent the other house for a while.
Right.
But they're in the house they're going to get, and they're happy to be there, and they're taking care. Look, they invite the family over. Look, this is our house.
That's right. Exactly right. Okay, so Emma gives me $10,000 for a down payment. So I bought it from you. I have a right from you for $100, right? I sell it to Emma for $110. Mm-hmm. Emma gives me a $10,000 deposit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How much do I owe the seller now? How much do I owe you? Emma gives me $110, gives me a $10,000 deposit. How much do I owe you?
Still owe $100 to me.
Right.
That was the original deal. That's still there.
So did you care that I made that money?
No.
Did I gyp you?
Nope.
Did I do anything wrong? Matter of fact, I made you a lot more money than that because normally it costs between 12 and 15% in closing costs. That if you had sold that house for $100,000, you wouldn't have got $100,000 to begin with, anyways.
Right. Which is why he's willing to wait the year or two or three or four.
Because not only did I save him the $15,000 in closing costs, right?
Yeah.
But I sold the house and got it off of his back.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure, and he could have rented it, but then he's a landlord now, and in this case, he's not. He doesn't have to worry about any of that.
So once I get my buyer, I actually assign the option agreement to my seller.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
You sign it to
My
buyer.
So I sign it from my seller
Yeah.
to my buyer.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that mean?
The rights transferred, changed hands.
It means everything is transparent. So my buyer knows exactly how much money I made. There's no secret.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My seller knows how much money my buyer paid because they're going to have to put it on the purchase and sales contract.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even worst case scenario, if they didn't put it on the purchase and sales contract, and I took my 10 grand, I sold it for 110, right? The buyer's going to say, you owe me 100. He's going to write a contract for 100. What's the difference? You're in the same place.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Other than if you write it as a $10,000 down payment, then you don't have to come up with a second down payment. That's what you would do.
Well, when the bank looks at it, they say, oh, they already have $10,000 down on the deal, and that's good.
Right.
Because they have money down already. Right. You're not starting at zero because they want money down.
So here's the cool thing. The seller gets what he wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
The price of the house without all the fees, right? The buyer who can't qualify for a mortgage gets to live in the house and prepare for a mortgage, so he gets what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
I make a few bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wins.
Yep. And real numbers, just for example, somebody might be renting for $1,200 a month. They do this, and they may be paying $1,600 a month. But when they get qualified and get the mortgage, they may go down to $1,400 a month because they're actually owning it. So it's an incentive to actually get the mortgage and not just sit there.
Right.
So the numbers go up and down a few hundred, but that's not a big deal when you're going from an apartment to a house on a lease to a house that you own.
Correct.
That's a great deal.
Yep. All right. So have I delivered what I promised?
I don't know. You got a few more pages to see. I see a few more pages to talk about. But absolutely, that's a great deal for everybody.
A one-page option agreement. A one-page assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Without realtors, bankers, or attorneys.
Yeah, why can't people just do business amongst ourselves? Why not?
Well, we are going to that.
We are.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Right? Uber. Right?
Yeah.
How about Amazon?
Yeah. You know what? There's middlemen in the world that I cannot stand because they don't do anything but just connect people that don't need to be connected. Right. This needs some help because it's not easy to find this kind of stuff unless you know what we're doing.
Right.
But you don't need more middlemen that you don't need, honest to God.
So here's the amazing thing to me. You don't own the real estate. You don't have the liability. Mm-hmm. It's much like what the realtor does, except we're a little bit more clever about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not controlled by all the bureaucracy.
Yeah, you know what else I just felt as you're describing this? The people that sell the houses with the realtors, they're doing great. The house isn't a problem. Everything is fine. They just call the realtor. They sell the house. That 19% of people that buy the house, they're doing fine. They got a nice job. They got good credit. Everything's doing fine. And they buy the house. What about everybody else?
Yeah.
What about the guy that's kind of stuck with a house that's not so hot, or he doesn't know how to sell it, or it's just something's going on here. He needs to move in 3 weeks and he's got to go.
Right.
And all those families that can't get a house.
Right.
Well, the realtors cannot help them.
Right.
Are you pre-qualified? No. Thank you. Goodbye. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but they're not in a position to do this.
Right.
So this is a fabulous service for a lot of people.
Agreed. Okay. Now, let's talk about a little bit more of a sophisticated document.
What else is there? I thought we just finished a deal. We're smoking cigars. We're having dinner.
The land contract.
Okay. I hear you talk about that a lot, but go ahead. I don't understand this one. Go ahead.
So the land contract, which is also called, in Connecticut, it's called a bond for deed. It also is called a contract for deed. It's also called an agreement for deed. It's also called a land installment contract, an agreement for deed.
That's like large, huge, names. Big, majestic.
This form allows you, whether you're buying or selling, to do a form of seller financing like a regular mortgage, but rather than borrow the money from the bank or a lender, the buyer makes payments to the seller or the owner until the agreed purchase price is paid.
Okay.
Okay. So here's how it works. There's no deed passed. That's important to get. There's no deed passed. Mm-hmm. Okay? You and your seller, or your buyer, depending on which way you're going, because you can sell this way and you can buy this way.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Decide on the terms. like how much you're going to pay, monthly payments, how long, default, I'll do this, I'll renovate, whatever.
All the conditions.
All the conditions of the sale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that goes into a written agreement.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of...
is it a roadmap to get to the sale? Or
it's kind of like, for me, it's a generic form, because now that I have it, I just alter it. But once you have the document, there's certain parts in the document that are loose that you can put those agreements easily in those paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Once the obligations are in the contract, you now have a deal.
Mm.
So the purpose of the contract is that when the seller feels those obligations or has evidence that those obligations are met, he'll give you the deed. Obviously, one of those obligations is give me my money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does it have language of how to get the money, but it also has language on what happens if you default. Okay? Which brings me to an important point, right? When you do one of these contracts, it's an eviction. Actually, I'm going to go over that in a minute. Okay? So, when I do these, not to complicate it, when I buy or acquire, I have one type of a land contract, and when I sell, I have a different one, because the one that I sell with is much stricter than the one I buy with.
Yeah.
Okay. Lately, I've been using the strict one for everything, because I'm not worried about weaseling out of anything. Okay. So, this document works very similar to the option agreement, okay? Because your deposit money is treated like the rights to buy.
Is it a bigger sum in this case?
It could be.
Can it be small too, like an option?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't perform, you lose those rights. You lose that money. Okay?
So less is better in this case.
Right. So am I clear? So it's like we're writing a contract with all the agreements, and once the buyer meets those obligations, the seller will pass the deed.
Yep.
And passing the deed means ownership goes from seller to buyer.
Yep. Sounds like a kind of a mix between an option and a purchase and sales.
That's right.
That combine.
That's exactly right.
It's like an extended purchase and sales that
That's
happens at the end.
Yep.
With all the details, do this, do that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now let's clear a few things up here. Okay. Because there will be questions. So first of all, you would use this document when the seller is nervous about giving you the deed. See, in owner financing, you usually have a closing, like the banks do.
Yep.
And the owner, instead of getting money, like with a mortgage, like when the banks come to the table, they bring the money. So if you own the property and I'm buying it from you, and and Emma gives me a bank loan, then I'm giving you all the money. That's the conventional way. That's why the realtor has become so popular, is because he's created that system. Because back in the day, it wasn't like that. It was like what I'm talking about right now.
Sure.
Okay. So if we come to the closing and you're doing owner financing, what you get is you pass the deed and get a note and a mortgage in replace of the deed.
Right.
Saying that I owe you more than what I paid. Okay, because there's probably going to be interest.
Oh, okay.
So if I owe you $100,000 and you're getting 6% interest, that means minimally you're going to make $6,000 a year. Okay, technically.
Okay.
So that's the reason why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Problem is if I don't pay in this scenario, right? The deed's in my name, which means you need to come sue me for the deed to get your collateral back, which is
Yeah.
the house,
Yeah.
and that's called foreclosure.
Sure.
Okay, and some people, although the foreclosure proceeding is not that hard, there are people that just like, oh no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, if you can. So while you might have a lease option, rent to own situation, and after that you could have.
No. Let's not confuse. I just want to make sure we get the owner financing down.
Yeah. Okay.
So the owner financing is that I buy from you. We write, my attorney or somebody writes up the note and the mortgage, and at the closing, that's what you get. And the reason why you would do that is because the likelihood of you getting more money because of interest, or because we pay more because of the owner financing, because if you pay monthly, you get more money, is very high. That's why you would do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. When we do a contract like what we're talking about, a contract for deed, the seller isn't willing to give us the deed because he doesn't want to go through the foreclosure process.
Sure.
Because he thinks that's grueling. So if we sign an owner finance deal like this, we use a land contract or agreement for deed or whatever you want to call it. Okay. And if I default, at that point, it's just an eviction.
Yeah.
It's not a foreclosure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We wouldn't have the deed, so he doesn't have to foreclose. He just throws us out.
Right. So the biggest reason why I would use this document is because my seller doesn't want to hand over the deed to me, and they want to be protected. So on the normal rent to own or the lease option, when you're using a lease, you only get the use of the property.
That's right.
So if you pay $1,500 a month to live there, your $1,500 is paying for 30 days of occupancy. That's it. Okay. When you use a land contract or a contract for deed, you can pay interest and everything like a regular mortgage. Okay. And because you're paying that interest, you can now get a tax deduction on your income taxes because you're paying interest.
Sure.
So it works just like a mortgage. Okay. Plus, you can get principal reduction. See, on a lease, you get no principal reduction. You pay $1,500 a month, and if you bought for $110, at the end of 2 years, you still owe $110. With a land contract, it's an amortized schedule. And amortization simply means that if I owe you $100,000, right, and my mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, and I pay you $1,000 the first month, some portion of that money is going to go towards principal and some portion is going to go towards interest.
Sure.
So that means when I pay the second month, the interest and the principal is a different amount because I paid some principal and you can't charge me interest on money that I don't owe you.
Sure.
Okay.
The balance is going down, interest going down.
So that means every month the principal interest ratio changes. Right? Because as I pay, even if I pay $1 worth of principal, it changes.
Sure.
You can't charge me interest for that $1 that I paid you. Right? So that's what an amortization schedule does, is it breaks down those payments so you know each month, we'll say for 30 years, 360 months, how much you're paying in interest and how much you're paying in principal. So if all of a sudden in month, 43, you're going to refinance, you can go on that schedule and say, here's how much principal I owe, and just send the check and pay it off.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So that's what an amortized schedule does. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to use an amortized schedule with this document. So you will get so you get all the benefits of owning the house without owning the house. Because you don't have the deed in your name.
Yeah, it's
basically it's basically what a land contract does.
Cool. Does it always have interest?
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's a contract between you and your seller.
Yeah. Well, I like the part where you get principal reduction, but sometimes you do owner financing and get a lot of principal reduction as well in owner finance. But if he's not comfortable with that, the land contract is one step before it seems.
Right.
Before I was just looking at the different deals you have and like how they would fit in a pecking order.
Right.
Because sometimes a person won't do one thing, they feel more comfortable with another or something else. So you have these choices.
The pecking order is in terms of liability, like the most liability to the least liability.
Mm-hmm.
So the most liability you can have is deed in your name.
Sure.
The second most liability you have is this land contract.
Mm-hmm.
The third least amount of liability you have is a rent-to-own or a lease option.
Sure.
And then the next one under that is just an option.
Yeah.
And that's the pecking order. So the option part of the liability is where you keep talking about the Realtors Act, because they have no liability. The only liability they have is when they sell.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's very simple in my head. I don't even think I've ever said this, but it's very simple in my head. Until money hits the table, nothing happens anyways. You sign a contract with a realtor, and until money hits the table, absolutely nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well use that contract to go to the bathroom with. Use it as toilet paper, because it doesn't mean anything. The only reason why a realtor does what a realtor does is because I'm telling you, for the first half of the century, from 1910 to 1950, they were stealing deposits or not using the deposits for deposits. And that is the biggest reason why the Code of Ethics for Realtors was written. That's why there was a National Association of Realtors formed.
Yeah.
Now, there's a whole bunch of other reasons the realtors can come up to, but that's the crux of it. You read the history, which is not hard to do, but read the history of how things happen. That's the exact reason why. Okay. Point I'm making here is that you don't need to do any of that if you have a good contract for deed or land contract. You just make an agreement with your seller, because this is how we've bought and sold real estate for thousands of years. Before the realtor came
along. There's way more history there.
Yeah. This is exactly how it happened. Whew. That was a lot.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, where else are our listeners going to go and get this kind of information?
Well, what really, really kills me over and over on this is how many people you see that they get into real estate. I'm going to wholesale. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
Like, it's not up to you. It is not up to you what the seller will do. You've got to get that through your head.
Right.
You don't pick what you want to do. If you do, good luck finding that needle in the haystack.
Right.
Imagine having all these opportunities, let's call it, to make a purchase. And find what a person will do to sell the house. Well, you buy more houses.
Basically, what Pete is saying is that if you get 100 sellers, you talk to 100 sellers, you might find one that's a wholesaler.
Yeah, or something else you're trying to do.
No, they might find one that will wholesale.
Yeah.
What you and I do is we get 100 sellers, and maybe we find 15 or 20 that we can do business with instead of just the one.
Yeah, because
we have more opportunities. Right. That's all.
And if you're looking for just some others, I'm just going to do taking over deeds. I'm going to, well, good luck on that too. Right. Maybe the guy doesn't want to do that either.
Right.
Maybe he wants to wholesale.
Right.
But if you have the possibilities, you'll get more deals. Why not know more? Why not have a bigger toolbox?
So I feel like these podcasts have turned into like little mini seminars, workshops. I know, because my coaching clients tell me that they sit down and they listen to them and they take notes, and we talk about them on the coaching call. Right. So, the very last thing I want to cover is this. These documents I've explained today have been around for, like I said, hundreds of years. This is not this is not what the internet says as like a non-conventional way to do it. This was the original way to do it. And they stole that position by bringing the money to the table. I mean, think about it. If for 100 years we bought and sold real estate, came to you and said, "Hey, Pete, I want to buy your farm." Well, that's good because I want to retire.
Move to the city.
Yeah, or whatever,
How you going to pay me?
Right. And, I'll tell you, I'll give you, 3 dozen eggs and 14 chickens a month or whatever. right? However, I'm going to pay
And a quart of milk.
and a quart of milk, right?
Okay, deal.
And then we would write one of these contracts, and then you would go off, and I would stay in the house. Well, now the realtor comes on board and says, Pete, not for nothing, but I got a friend down at the bank, and he's willing to loan your buyer money so you can get it in 30 days and not have to wait 30 years. So they took time out of real estate. And that's how they've managed to excel so quickly.
Yep.
It's because they took time out of
Big
the real
wad of
estate.
cash.
Yeah. So they went and made a deal, and then the banker realized, oh my God, there's a ton of money. Because what most people don't realize is, I do this at meetup, right? So I say, it's a trick question. I say to them, how much did you pay? I pick somebody out of the audience. How much did you pay for your house?
Oh, $154,000.
Right. And then I'm like, no, you didn't. They're like, yes, I did. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you, but that's not how much you paid for your house.
Well, how much did I pay?
Well, how much are your payments?
$1,252 a month.
So take $1,252 a month and pay and multiply it by 360 payments, and that's how much you paid for your house, which is usually 3 times the amount of money. And they go, oh my God, you're right, because if you take the principal and the interest and all that, and not the taxes and insurance, but you take the principal and interest and multiply it out by the term of your contract, that's how much you're paying for the house. You didn't pay $150,000, $154,000, whatever the number is. You paid whatever your monthly payments added up to be. And you don't even realize it.
Nothing like interest.
And people don't even realize, I paid $150,000 for the house. No, you didn't. You're paying every month.
That's almost the opposite of like, yes, how much you want for the house? I want $150,000.
Right.
We're not getting $150. Why not?
Right.
Because you owe $82. Right. I want $150, but you owe $82. Well, how much do you think you're going to get? $150. Click. Goodbye. You're stupid. Right. I've had those conversations. So I'm trying to find out, well, how much you actually want to get? I'll give you that.
Right.
What's your equity? But it's like the opposite of that one.
Kiyosaki so cleverly wrote in either Cash Flow Quadrant or Rich Dad Poor Dad that your house is a liability. And that's the reason why. Because if you're making payments every month and you paid, not $150,000 for your house, but $450,000 for your house, that's a liability.
It's not making you money.
It's the bank's asset because they're collecting the other $300,000.
Yeah. We've redefined an asset as something that makes you money, and liability is something that costs you money.
Right.
It's nice to have the house. He did.
That, yeah.
And he got, that was in Rich Dad Poor Dad, and they almost couldn't get the book published because you can't say that.
Right.
Sorry.
All right. So we need to understand that this document's been around for 100 years. In fact, I've sold and bought and sold, I don't know how much of these deals like this, right? And the reason why we don't use them that much is because, think of it this way. What does the realtor get paid on?
The full amount of the house. The full price of the sale. His commission.
Right. No, that's not correct.
You're asking what does he get paid on?
Right.
What's the answer?
What does the realtor get his commission on?
The sale of the house. No?
No.
I give.
He gets paid on how much money he brings to the closing table.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So if he sells the house for 190 and they're only qualified for 186, he's not getting paid on 190. He's getting paid for how much money he brings to the closing table.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you're saying he can't promise that when he shows up. Oh, I'll sell it for a certain amount.
On the settlement statement in the closing, they're going to do the percentage, the 5 or 6% based on the amount of money that hit the closing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what they get paid on.
Yep.
Agreed? So if $190,000 comes into the closing, they get their 5 or 6% or whatever percentage off of that number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. If they did a land contract, how much money comes to the table?
Whatever's left after it gets paid off, right? It gets paid down.
Okay, when?
At the end of the contract.
Which is when?
When all the stipulations are met a few years later.
Right. So if a realtor had your house for sale and said, "Oh, I can offer you owner financing," how much do they get paid now for doing that job now?
On owner financing, he can't get the commission. The money didn't happen yet.
Right. Do you get it?
Yeah. So he can't do that.
So the money
can't do
that's
that
a
deal.
good way to put it. The money didn't happen yet.
Yeah, he can't.
So the realtor gets paid on what?
The money that happened yet.
The money that hits the closing.
Yeah.
So if the money doesn't hit the closing until a year or 2 or 3 years later, do you think the realtor's going to want to do that? Wait 3 years to get paid?
Nope.
Do you think that they're going to want to take instead of getting, we'll say 6% on 200,000, which is $12,000? You think they're going to want to get $1,200?
Nope.
1 month's rent?
Nope.
This is the reason why you don't know about land contracts.
Yeah. What's funny is a lot of us are trying to do real estate or doing real estate so we don't have a job that you work for every day.
Right.
So we have something that's a producing asset that might make some money now, some money on cash flow, and some money down the line. So we don't mind building those and like building. It's almost like an insurance agent. The more customers he gets, the more he makes until he has a big booming practice.
Right.
The realtor is kind of like running a job where he has to chase house after house, and there's no asset producing income after that. So some of them actually get into real estate themselves for that reason.
The broker does.
Mm-hmm.
The broker has the asset. Like I know a broker's got 88 agents.
Yeah.
You think he's worried about doing 2 or 3 closings a month? 5 closings a month, whatever the number is? As long as he keeps them activated, hyped up, ray, ha, rah, rah, rah. You know?
Somebody will make the money. Somebody will produce each month.
Somewhere, even the guy that does 1 deal a year.
Yeah.
If everybody just did 1 deal a year.
Yeah, he's still okay.
Right?
Good for him, not good for the agent if that's all he's gotten.
Right.
But we're building a different kind of business that has like longevity. It builds. Money comes down the road. Money comes in now.
Right.
Monthly. Different scenario entirely.
So that's the reason why you don't know about these documents. That's the reason why you don't know about an option. And you don't know about, because the option, how do they get paid? Where's their fee? They can't get their 6%. Right? And the land contract, they why would they talk about that? A lease, a rent to own, why would they talk about that? Because instead of getting $12,000 commission, they get $1,200. And oh yeah, by the way, with realtors, any average closing, the commission gets broken up 4 different ways.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have a buyer broker and you have a seller broker. And usually there's a buyer agent and a seller agent.
Yep.
Right? So even though the agent's the person you're working with, whatever commission they make, they have to split it with their broker.
Yeah.
Who holds the license.
Yeah. That's the guy who owns the
So that means there's
agency.
On most closings, there's four closings. So if they're making $12,000, that means each person's making $3,000. Right?
Yep.
So why would they want to make half of that? $1,200. Because now what happens? Well, it wouldn't even be half of that. Because now if you took $1,200 and split it up 4 ways, what happens now?
What's $1,200 like?
First month's rent.
Yeah.
If they lease it, they get maybe 2 months rent.
Right. Oof.
Right? You get it?
Yeah. Ouch. That's painful.
So now it goes from you're making $3,000 to making $300.
Eek.
And honestly, it's more paperwork for them to do a lease than an option.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because when
terrible.
they sell a house, all they do is write a purchase sales contract and send it to the closing agent or the attorney.
If it was $300,
they're done.
If it was $300 a month,
Right.
that'd be one thing. And that's our scenario.
But you get it? Now if they go do a lease option, they got to draft all these documents.
Oh,
It
really?
takes me an hour to draft those documents, 45 minutes to draft those documents. Who's going to draft those documents? The attorney's not going to do it. Where's the attorney get paid? The realtor is expected to draft the lease option. You get it? It's just way too much work for not enough money. So that's why we don't know about it. That's why they sweep it under the rug.
Completely different business model, no?
Yeah. Okay. Now, I need to handle something and then we're going to end off. Okay. I am going to get support tickets on how do you get these documents. Correct?
Oh, yeah. Small detail.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, go ahead.
So if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, Emma and I, within the last, I'll say month, okay, have put a new product up that has all of my documents in it. Okay? And not only does it have all my documents, but it breaks it down per deal. So once you buy into the portal, because you're going to pay for it, once you buy into the portal, and it's not cheap, I mean, it's not super expensive, but it's not cheap. Once you buy into the portal, you have lifetime access to it. So if you're doing a slot deal, you go to the slot deal section, and all the documents for a slot deal are there. You download them. there's actually an example of a deal so you can see what it looks like. Which, by the way, if you're having trouble deal structuring, that's something that I've been talking about lately. You take, like in that particular case, if you take the slot deal and there's an example deal there, just take my numbers out of the deal and put your numbers into the deal, and you've structured the deal. You don't need to be smart. Just take one of my deal structures that I show you how to do and take my numbers out, put your numbers in, and you're done. You don't have to think about the deal.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
If you want to do a subject to deal or a getting the deed deal, you go to the portal and it says subject to, getting the deed, and all there's an example deal so you can see what the math should look like, and then all the documents are right there to download. So all you do is you download them and you fill them out, which are not hard to do, and you're done. So all these documents I'm talking about, and then as bonuses, what I did is I put my private lender documents in there. I put a line contract in there for buying, one for selling, and a few other various documents that I use. Now, some of those documents are not manipulated documents. In other words, they're not a Word document. But you can print them and give them to somebody and tell them to type them. Send it to Fiverr and they'll type it out for you, or just give it to your attorney or closing agent and say, here's what I want. And that's the purpose of them.
Okay.
So you can get all that stuff at flippinghousesforrookies.com. If you go to the top right-hand side where it says courses, you go there and you can see it's a brown tab that talks about, it says where to get all the documents. Okay, and go check it out. What is it? It says every document for creative real estate investors. Whatever it is.
That's a good title.
Yeah.
Hey, why'd you call it that? Because it's what it is.
Because that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Okay, so just realize that that's what's there, okay?
That's good, Bill, because I've seen people often like, but how do I get the contract? How do I do the paperwork? They're worried about that.
Yeah, I was resistant to it for 16 years, and Emma's been gnawing at me. So we spent the time. We went over the documents. I went over everything, and we made the portal. It took us a little bit of time because there's some deals only need one or two documents, but they're the right documents.
Yeah,
you don't need to have a lot of paperwork. An average closing has 38 documents in it. Some of these, the biggest deal I do is a subject to deal, and it's got 6. And I own the house, and I have more control. It's like amazing. Okay? All right, good. So please remember my birthday game.
So that's
56
2 a day.
Reviews.
2 per day, thank you.
56 iTunes reviews. Okay, good, bad, or indifferent. iTunes reviews. And 56 support tickets in the next 30 days telling me that you got something from the podcast. I prefer it to be I bought a house because I've had a lot of those. I bought 5 houses. I bought 3 houses. I bought 2 houses. So
come on, folks. Let's get 56 houses for Bill. Come on.
Right. So 56 support tickets saying, and if you haven't bought a house, at least some success story on that we like completely rocked your universe and you were like, oh my God, here's what happened. And I prefer it to be a physical universe thing instead of just some kind of but at this point,
like doing something.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing marketing now. I have cards and I'm telling people I'm looking for properties. I looked at 2 last week. Oh my God.
Right.
Doing something. Do something.
Yeah. So that's the game. With that said, I hope you enjoyed today's show. We're over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.